GM, welcome to another Touchgrass podcast episode. Today I'm joined by Joshua, who's the CPO at Solayer. I've been seeing these guys all across the timeline. I think they recently announced a massive ecosystem fund as well. So I wanted to get Joshua on to talk about sort of Solayer, talk about how it's progressing, what they're focusing on, and especially like what they're looking for at the ecosystem fund. Thanks so much for coming on, Joshua.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Tell us more, man. How long have you been at Solayer?
I've been there mostly about almost a year and a half to 2 years now. Was one of the early employees at Solayer, so I joined in almost day one. Yeah.
Awesome. Has the thesis changed since day one? Like, what's the team focusing on now? Like, can you talk a little bit about how the project has progressed?
Yeah, I think the thesis we always had like a core thesis surrounding things. And then it's just sharpened along the way. And at least our methods and how we're going to approach the problem. So I think we've always been thinking about scalability and thinking about how do we bring, if we are to bring everything in this, like in traditional sense, in the traditional world, Web2, everything on chain, or as much of it as it makes sense to bring on chain, the scalability that we will need is on a completely different order of magnitude from what we have at the moment. So we were thinking about, okay, so how do we break in and how do we make this happen? What are the pathways that we can go about doing it? So that's why we started early on doing restaking, but in the restaking sense where we're using it to send transactions and lend them more reliably on Solana, and also like lower latency, things like that. So that has always been the core thesis, and we were using restaking as a means to help with pushing transactions through with like back then what we call Endo AVS or like a transaction service. And then we found that, hey, if we take this to the next level, we can actually mess around a lot with the consensus and make things go even faster. So that's where we started to spun off in January last year to launch the Solayer chain, which is a super high TPS layer one, where almost, I think we've passed 200, 300,000 transactions per second right now. And also like very low latency on that, almost instant confirmation. So I think if we're going to bring the likes of like Stripe, Netflix, all these on chain, we would need these kinds of technologies so that if you imagine like how many database reads and writes these guys are doing, it's very fast. So I think that's where we've always stuck true to this. And then now that we have this technology and we have been building out this piece, now it's okay. So we have this super fast technology. What are the use cases now? If we want to break into the traditional world, we want to break into all of these like traditional finance, payments, AI, all of these industries. What's the angle to break into them, and how do we get these use cases out? This is the kind of direction that we're focusing on right now.
Yeah, and you guys are building, like, I saw Solayer Pay as well on the timeline. Like, are you guys building your own stuff as well?
Yes. So Solayer Pay is gonna be sitting on a lot of our technologies and also like stuff that we've built before. So we launched our Emerald, like our Solayer Card last year, and that's like the first step. Solayer Pay is like the expansion of the universe, in that sense, and seeing, hey, how do we make like user adoption actually work? I think beyond just having the stablecoin neobank like aspect of things, like having people deposit into an app, be able to earn yield, to be able to load it into their card, spend crypto without having to off ramp. All of these pieces need to be there. These are the core features. Every neobank needs to have it. Otherwise, like, it doesn't even work anymore. So like, you have those core pieces. But we're going to introduce very interesting features that would head heavily into consumer. So things like
There's a card, there's pay. Yeah, talk about what else you guys are sort of exploring into.
so all this is all under the umbrella of Solayer Pay. So it all sits in that app. And we even have a Venmo like send receive, so P2P transfers directly on stablecoins, directly in the chat or directly in the app, so that people could basically tag their friends and grab their username and then just send like money, and then it's all going to be free. So if there are people always ask why would I pay gas when I can send money on Venmo for free? here's the answer. You're gonna send it for free on us. So and it's gonna be really fast as well. Yeah, and then that directly could go into your spend on the card. You could earn points, rewards, all these things. Yeah, and once there's a critical amount and it makes sense, then we'll enable yield. Right now, it's just not. I mean, people are using it to spend, so they don't really use it for yield. Maybe in the future, that could be one of the features in the neobank app. Or yeah, I guess Solayer Pay is always surrounding payments. So things like payments in real world using the card, or payments peer to peer on that, or even on the web. So things like e-commerce, things like P2P donations, things like Patreon, stuff like that. So yeah.
What sort of attracted you towards building out like Solayer Pay? Like, do you see this sort of stablecoin neobank type of architecture sort of popping off in the next few years? Like, what kind of discussions were there internally before like heavily investing into something like this?
I think number one, the chain and everything, we see product market fit in a few things, right? Not many things need a 300,000 TPS chain. One of them is trading use cases, because the just number of trades that are being written, you just have to send a lot of transactions. Number two, payments, because maybe 10 people using it, you're sending not many payments, maybe once a day or something. Once you have like 100,000 people sending payments, it gets exponentially more. It's a graph. And then the network effects scale from there. And if you truly have any payments app on chain and it has more than 100,000 million users, you start seeing like total gas fee for all of that paid. It's a huge bill. And you compare that to what people are doing in Web2, they're just writing to a database, right? They of course have all the checks and stuff in place, but the economics don't make sense. And economics on the underlying of all this have brought down empires in human history, right? I think the economics always persists through all of these, like whether it's power movements, power changes, industry shifts. The economics actually is a big driver for a lot of it.
That's
So
super interesting. Yeah, where do you see sort of? Do you think like, as you said, like yield
mhm.
is interesting to you guys? Where do you think like the next step or phase of this is? Like, do you have thoughts on like the broader neo finance narrative that's arriving? Like, where do we go from here?
Yep. I think where we go from here is going heavily into P2P payments. The card needs to grow. So, but at the same time, you don't want to go up against something like Mercury or Brex, right? Because they have way better infrastructure on the traditional finance side. Um, the fees will be much lower, and like going up against that market takes a lot of resources. They had to go behind the scenes to go through a lot of plumbing to open up new channel partner, all of that for their customers. Which is, if as a Web3 company, you're breaking in, you try doing that, that's actually very, very tough. So I think we'll be, yes, we'll of course have like the basic features for neobanking. But I think what attracts people more, what actually gets people excited more, is like, hey, can I pay someone simply with a name tag, or with the QR code, right? If I go out to dinner with friends, can I split a payment? Can I integrate this with traditional like apps on the App Store, Splitwise, things like that, right? Where, hey, now I just send, and wait, it's running on stablecoins. What? No one knew we ran on stablecoins. But if we want to go with that, where we're hitting largely all Web2 users who use the app, use it without knowing that it is crypto, that's running behind the scenes, or at least the stablecoin component. I think that's going to be very useful for actual adoption. And we're engineering all of this to basically make the user experience and the integration process as smooth as possible, and distribute that throughout all of the channels in Web2.
Yeah, as like the chief product officer, I guess your entire job is to talk to these customers. Can you talk to me a little bit about user demographics? Like, how have customers or users received Solayer Pay? Like, what's their number one feedback? Like, what is something that someone listening should do on Solayer Pay right now? Talk to us about all that.
Yeah, I think when it comes to feedback and stuff like that, we do see a lot of usage in specific geographies. So that's where we are speaking to each of these folks to see like, hey, how are they using the card? because the card is just a card, but how are you actually using the card? That's more important. Yeah, and then we are looking to see is other ways that we can give more rewards, right? Give more things that people are interested in. Cashback has surprisingly not been as compelling of a. I mean, it looks nice on paper, but depends on where the cashback is coming from. If it's coming back from someone like, yeah, subsidizing it, then we have seen a lot of card programs. It's not sustainable in the long term. You can't just keep subsidizing it. Secondly, is like, hey, cashback versus rewards. Rewards win. So if you give a 2% cashback on every spend, people are like, okay, that's nice. That's a nice thing to have. But if I can give you an allocation for a partner ecosystem company's airdrop, it's always going to be outsized. You spend like $2,000, you get 2% cashbacks, like $40. If you earn reward points, or if you earn so that's where we come have the Arrow Card rewards, where we have like 40, 50 different companies all part of this network, and you earn from all of it with one tap of your card, right? So that's where, hey, if you earn one airdrop alone, it's gonna be way more than any $20, $30 that you can earn back from spending $2,000 on the card. Yeah, so that's something I think that we found out. Some other trends is mobile app. So that's where we are building a mobile, investing heavily into the mobile app nowadays. And yeah, I guess the next part would also be like use cases. So people are using it for all sorts of things, subscriptions, like usual, yeah, like just day-to-day payments. That's why we're going more towards like a day-to-day card or like a day-to-day payments app, and see if there's a way to kind of integrate that into all of your like your daily usage, right? So if I don't have to pay with card, I can pay with other means, and then you just keep coming back to this app. I might receive a Venmo from someone, or I might receive like a Solayer Pay someone sends over some stablecoins to their side, and I don't want to have to load that blah blah blah. It just immediately adds to your card. You can spend it and all zero fees. So it becomes like a way for people to store their cash, and also receive that cash, not just go through the whole process of let me send you my Phantom wallet address. You send it there. Let me take that and then deposit to this address so I can load my card. It's just one very seamless thing. I just send this is my tag, and then I can use it to buy McDonald's like literally now. So that's the making that a lot easier. I think that's where we'll see more use cases kind of come like float to the top.
Yeah.
It could be payments for salaries. People just directly do that. It could be, I don't know, rent. Someone subleases something and then they're like, let me just send it to you. Maybe there's a group of people traveling around the world and they're just subletting from other crypto people. Maybe they're hacker houses. People are just sending rent on that, and then they're directly spending it on the card because the card is international, right? And then things like that. Or you go on a business meeting and then they want to split, I don't know, cost or something. All of that's going to be there. I think there are a lot of different use cases. We just want to explore them and see, hey, how do we support these use cases from like start all the way to end, and then make it as simple as possible. But the most basic thing is that payments are around people, and
Yeah.
people work with people. So we just make it very easy for people to do that.
That makes a lot of sense. Are you allowed to talk about which user geographies is most prevalent for you guys in terms of the card?
Right now, I think we have a good amount everywhere. Actually, it's quite evenly spread. Asia, we have quite a lot. We have a lot in the US as well. We do also have a lot in like MENA area, and then we might expand heavier into LATAM as well. So I think it's pretty flat or like equal across all right
Okay.
now. Yeah, so it's actually a positive sign because I think that allows us to have more surface area, and then when we go deeper into each of these geographies, we can like basically double down.
Makes sense. Sort of shifting gears from what Solayer is incubating to what projects are building on the chain. Are there like interesting projects popping off? What's going on in the Solayer ecosystem?
Very exciting stuff. So we are actually launching another product soon. And that one, more news will be coming on that. Actually, that's gonna be one of our flagship projects. The other thing about the other projects putting on our chain as well. So we recently launched Solayer XL. So we've incubated 3 companies right now. And then we also have a pipeline of a few more companies that we're working with on the XL side. And lastly, there's also like projects that are just integrating on the chain, and we are seeing increasing amount of apps basically working with us, hitting us up to kind of build on the chain. And a lot of use cases are, I mean, the core 3 apps that we had on the Excel program, one of them is Buff Trade. So the AI agent launchpad. Essentially, you can launch, this is launchpad, you launch tokens. And then you will also have, part of it is that you have AI agents that would basically listen to Twitter, that you can construct your own strategy. It could be, let me arbitrage this, let me do that, right? And then these agents would take care of it, have a vault, and eventually they will launch their own tokens through this mechanism to basically monetize their vault. So that if you think this agent that's purely trading what Trump talks about, if you think that guy is gonna make money, you can deposit that into the vault, or you can also just buy the token itself. And if the AI agent performs well, the vault might buy back tokens, and then it becomes like a fully autonomous hedge fund in that sense. So I think that's a very interesting kind of piece, mainly because now I would see each person can create multiple agents. But as a user, I have so many theses. I'm gonna create so many different theses, and they're all gonna trade, which means there are gonna be a lot of transactions from one user. Could make thousands of transactions, right, in a day, because I'm managing 10 AI agents, and it just makes it so easy for me to just create a strategy and go with it. I don't have to pay like a satellite to take images of Walmart to see if I'm gonna do a trade on Walmart, right? Nowadays you can just use a lot of AI to kind of do that scraping and all of that stuff. So I think Barftrade is interesting and definitely has product market fit on like a low cost chain. Yeah, so that's one of them. Next one, Docs, they're doing like a all-in-one DEX. So DEX, yeah, everything is like DeFi all in one place, right? So they're also doing well. They're gonna deploy soon. And then we have Spout Finance. That's an interesting play because we're looking for more traditional industries, looking at how we can break it to TradFi and things like that. So they're going to tokenize equities, put it on chain, and also allow people to borrow against it. So instead of selling your crypto or selling your equities, a lot of high net worth individuals, what they do is that they never sell. But the moment you sell, you pay taxes. So they just never sell and they borrow against it. So that's what they're bringing on chain and allowing everyone to do it nowadays, not just like a few on the privileged elite side of things. So now you can just buy NVIDIA stock and then just borrow against it and never sell. And then as NVIDIA just keeps climbing, you don't have to sell. You participate in the upside. And then if there's any downside, is that if it crashes, you have already locked in your price in that sense by taking a loan. It liquidates it, fine, right? You just limit your downside. You just pick a price, but at least you don't sell it to finance, like to buy things in that sense. You always have the upside there. So that's something they're unlocking. Very interesting integrations across both that as well as like on the on-chain side as well as the off-chain component. And we also are going to start incubating a few prediction markets. So that would be interesting. We are trying to see if there are prediction markets that are a bit more interesting. Because, I mean, everyone's going to have a prediction market. We don't want to have just like copy and then arbitrage across chains and but just the same liquidity circulating around, right? We're looking for prediction markets that are opening up new markets and finding new ways to resolve them. Can we do it consumer? Can we get these markets everywhere? Literally bet on anything without having to go through a big app where I don't want to bet on two random people. Are they going to break up, right? But their friend group might be interested. Or this Twitch stream, someone's playing a game. Is he going to win, lose? Can I open a real-time prediction market? These are some of the interesting things that, number one, are I feel a lot more closer to consumer. Number two, would actually need a lot more transactions on chain, which is where it comes back to the thesis of if we're going to do all of this, it needs to be on very strong rails, which is going to be the high-speed chain. Other things on the ecosystem side, we're based here in Silicon Valley, right? So we have, I live in San Francisco. A lot of the team also lives in South Bay. And we're running into a lot of AI agents and a lot of AI companies. I've been personally seeing some very interesting use cases that I was like, wow, crypto actually solved a AI problem better than AI did, or a traditional sense did. And so I just met him last night. I'm like, I probably need to chat with him more. And it makes so much sense because so they do like browser agents, and like browser base actually makes it very easy for like someone like Cloudflare to go in and block their agents. Because even if you spin up a lot of emulators to simulate people's behavior and then you have agents run on them, Cloudflare could literally buy your service, go in, check all the devices, all the IP addresses, and just blacklist all of them. You're going to try again, second. So is there a way for you to basically have an incentive layer that every phone is interested as a consumer? I'll just run this, download the app, run it, and it's running browser agents on the background, but I'm incentivized because I get paid for it. It can only happen in this way where Cloudflare comes in,
Yeah,
and they can't block every consumer's phone because then
that's
it
why.
defeats the purpose. You
Yeah,
got to mix it. But the only incentive layer that's good enough to make everyone interested to run this is something like grass, right? So,
yeah,
or like yeah, something like that, or like a incentive model like that. I was like, okay, well, that's so brilliant. And then it's like that would solve the browser agent issue. And I know so many AI companies here who would pay so much for super reliable
yeah.
browser agents because then they don't have to worry about something going down. Yeah, so
Is
that's
that, is
like
that common? Is that common in Silicon Valley where crypto bros and AI researchers sort of meet and then they discuss like these sort of unique cases of how crypto can actually solve some of
no,
AI problems? No, it's just okay.
no. This is outlier. I was very fortunate to meet him. I think a lot of AI companies now they don't have a good impression of crypto. And to be fair, I actually do see where they're coming from. Our industry has been very short-sighted and very like narrative chasing or like empty narrative chasing. Like let me tell good stories so I can push like token price up, but they don't actually do the work and they don't actually break innovation in that sense, and they don't actually try to get things done. And then when the narrative dies, then they go to the next narrative. And then for as AI people here, when they launch like a product, it needs to get usage because it's an
Yeah,
AI. If it doesn't get usage, they don't generate revenue, they can't raise the next round. The investors here are also a lot more brutal in that sense. So that's where they from their perspective look at crypto and they're like, there's not much substantial going on here.
that makes-
But at the same time, I think it's up to good projects and good teams to actually drive this and make sure that
yeah,
they use the product and they're gonna be like, oh wait, actually these guys they're onto something. you
that
and
makes-
then that might help to change the narrative in the long term, like people's impression of us.
yeah. That makes a lot of sense. That's very interesting to learn. I thought a lot of crypto people were warming up, like as agents were popping off and agents using stable coins was something that was on crypto Twitter a lot. I just thought that it was something that was becoming a lot more acceptable. Joshua, in the interest of time, I do have a couple more questions. We'll go a little bit more rapid fire so that I can get all of them for our audience. Can you talk a little bit about the ecosystem fund? Like, what does it signify? What are you looking for? What should builders be thinking about? What is the ecosystem fund about?
Yeah, ecosystem fund. So the way we think about it is we don't give grants, and that might make some folks angry or make some folks like disappointed. But we do see that giving grants doesn't really pay out. In fact, you attract a lot of grifters. So people would just come in, deploy, grant farm, and run, right? Or in terms of it, they are thinking about it as how do I treat this like a hackathon project? They come in and they just deploy, and it's something that's fun, something that is like, oh, it works for a grant, but it's not a real company, right? So we are going to fund real companies, and that's where it's like, hey, if you're building a company and you're looking at revenue, we will help you drive revenue. We will help you with marketing. We'll help you with raising your next round. We will help to invest if one of us checks in. But the company needs to make sense. There needs to be an end paying customer. You need to validate that someone's going to pay for this thing. Then we would be happy to kind of go into that. And then that's the first criteria. It's like it needs to be a real company, real people, real revenue, and someone real needs to use it at the end of the day. And that demand needs to be proven, not just we're opening up a casino. There's so many casinos out here. Number two is it needs to make use or it needs to have some level of product market fit of, hey, you're taking advantage of the unit economics of like how fast and how cheap our chain is. Because once you leverage that, you have a significant competitive advantage you can't get anywhere else. Then take that as a wedge and kill the competition with it, right? And then just dominate that market because no one else can compete on your economics, your price, and your speed. So if you make it of these two things, that's where our ecosystem fund is very interested in that, and then we'll double down and make it happen. So we'll help from everything from hiring to marketing to engineering work as well. Yeah.
Interesting. Are there categories in the ecosystem fund, or is this open for all? Like any ideas are welcome.
Open for all. We want to see what the surface area and like just expand it. But we do have some thesis or like apps that have been we think make sense. The first one being trading apps, or interesting markets, right? Like prediction markets, things like that. Things that people would use, but that needs to be proven like volume, organic volume, no spoofing and all that stuff. And that's very easy to tell, right? So like real users trading for real things, and opening up new markets for people that who are already trading on somewhere else and they are willing to move over because you can provide a much better interface, price point, something, right? Number two, outside of the financial side is like payments. I guess like payments is also, but it's not like a trading like app, right? There's no liquidity and stuff like that. So payments and AI agents. So and maybe even agent infra if it makes sense, but it needs to be something that stands up against all the other that your competitors out there. It's not like a narrative sounds cool. It needs to actually have strong like user adoption, and it needs to be able to sell in that sense to end user. So things like the browser agents that makes a lot of sense. Things like that for AI, or something like buff trade where I want a fast, quick test investment or like trading thesis. Is there a fast way to vibe code it out and just launch it? And make that process as fast as possible. I don't want to have to go to AWS or Vercel and then go through 10 hours of deployments to get an agent up and running to trade something, right? Make it as fast as possible. So like that's where ease of use, things like that matter. These are three of the main ones. And of course, we have more other ones. If there's a good consumer app, social app that makes sense, and has good traction, we'll also be interested. But those are the few ones that come to mind. But always happy to be surprised.
Awesome. All right, Joshua. Last question. So we do have a really big, well, not a really big, but like a significant portion of our audience is, developers who are trying to build new things, and they're always looking for like RFPs. If there was one thing that you could convince someone to build on the Solayer ecosystem now, I know we talked a lot about the ecosystem fund. Is there like one particular thing that you'd love to see in the Solayer ecosystem in the next coming months?
I would say it's actually a very basic primitive, but we don't have it yet. I was just like thinking about it. I was like, wait, why don't we have that yet? Like a vault or like a yield or like a curation service. Because we just have been building out the DeFi primitives, like we don't have something like that. I was like, wait a minute. So if you want to build like a compound, like a all-in-one shop, lending, borrowing, money markets, maybe even have it as an interesting thing of maybe even have like yield tokens, stuff like that, like Pendle or something like that.
Yeah.
Or like curate vaults for like perplexes, arbitrage plays, things like that. That could all fall under one huge thing of like yield, and then that's the market that we don't have yet, surprisingly. Because we've been doing all this crazy stuff. I was like, wait a minute, this is something that is proven. People know how to build it, and it's not hard to build. We just need it there. And that will play very nicely with something like Buff Trade, where they have all these vaults, or like Docs, where they're an exchange of all these things, LP into this, blah, blah, blah. There's actually a lot of strategy that can be like a lot of compounding and modular stuff that you can play with all the assets there. So composable DeFi yield that would be not hard to build, is done, proven. We know it works. Just gotta do it.
Awesome.
So,
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Joshua, for the time. This has been awesome. I hope we see a lot more updates coming from the Solayer team, and very excited to have you on soon as soon as we launch new stuff on the chain.
Yeah, amazing.
Thank you so
Thanks a lot.
much.